Welcome. We'll get started in just a moment. It's nice to see some familiar faces. I think we're going to have a lot of fun today. Okay, while everyone's filtering in, we're going to get started. I want to thank you for coming. Welcome to the Gray Decision Intelligence Demand Trend webinar designed specifically for higher education professionals. And today we are going to concentrate on our community colleges. So we have a few housekeeping items to get started with. At the bottom of your Zoom screen, there's a place labeled Q&A. Please feel free to add your questions there. We'll get to as many as we can during this session, and we'll follow up later with you if we do run out of time. My Gray colleagues and I will be available for chat during the duration of the session, so please reach out to us and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. You will receive a link to the webinar recording and presentation slides in the next few days. Please look for it in your email. And now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Lisa Piatek, Gray's Senior Vice President of Business Development. Lisa has an extensive background in higher education and now helps institutions find the support they need for strategic planning, program selection, and assessment. Thank you for being with us today, Lisa.
Thank you, Marianne, and welcome everybody. I am excited to be sharing all of this wonderful insights and data with you today. I have to say to those that are participating, many gold stars to you all, because this is right before the holiday weekend, our week begins to kick off. So I'm thrilled that you're here to spend some time with me. Today, what we are going to do is take a look at some student demand indicators across what we like to call the funnel of looking at student demand. We're going to take a look at some national employment information, and we're going to dive into a few states across our country and take a look at some of that information as well. I very much love questions from all of you. So let's make this interactive. Please engage. Please send questions to Mary Ann, and I will do my best to answer them. Obviously, if I don't have an answer, we will definitely research that and get it back to you. So participation is key, I say. All right, let's get started on our adventure here. So one of the things that we talk about here at Gray is the importance of an academic program evaluation system. Now, those of you that have attended before probably are familiar with this. For those of you that are new, let me just share a little bit. In today's environment, especially in higher education, we have to continually look at the trends that are happening for the programs that we offer and the new ideas that we are thinking about. And so to have a process and system in place to help you do this makes it much more efficient and much more effective. And so one of the things that we have come to know and like to share with all of you is that looking at these four quadrants that you see on the screen here are key to that ongoing program evaluation and management process. So as we've talked about before, always thinking about your mission when you are launching new programs or making decisions on your current portfolio, looking at those internal academic metrics that are key to understanding your student success, your curriculum success, and then really taking a hard look at what the data is informing you on the status of the markets. What does that demand look like? What does the employment look like? What does that competitive set look like? And how intense is that competitive set? Am I going to be offering this degree at the right award level? That's very important. And then also looking at the internal economics or margins of your programs. Today, in the environment we're in, it's so important to find those opportunities for growth through, revenue, and what does that look like, as well as finding what we call curricular efficiency. So where are those cost savings? And when I say cost savings, I'm not saying cutting. That is not what we like to promote here at Gray. What we're talking about is diving in and finding those areas of opportunity through your economic evaluation to find appropriate savings as well as growth opportunities, right? It may be pruning, but it's not cutting. And so that's very key when you think about that ongoing management process. And then wrapping around that, right? The people that should be involved in that process across your campus is so key when looking at this data and democratizing this information, and developing a process that allows them to come together and have a conversation and to look at the data and be informed on those decisions, not with just looking at the data, but also the other knowledge you know about the market and your institution. And something new that we've added to this image, if you haven't seen it before, is the predict. And so with all of the AI capabilities, what Gray is doing now is really incorporating those AI functions into some of our systems to be able to access the data more easily, so that, when you have a significant question, you can just ask it of the system. That data is going to come right out, right? So something that you need to be thinking about for your own processes and systems. And then we at Gray have developed what we call a predict program size tool that allows you to look at the growth potential over time of those programs, whether they're new ideas or your current portfolio, with, I believe we're at like 97, 98% accuracy. And so, we can use AI for good, machine learning and natural language processing and all of those wonderful things that are out there, and we can incorporate those to help with what we need to do in this space. So I really highly encourage you all to really think about not just evaluating your programs, every 3 years, every 5 years, but because of the volatility and the trends changing so quickly, really have an ongoing management process and make sure you're using all this kind of data, right, to inform your decisions. Okay, let's continue on. So we kind of talked about that, right? Revenue growth. And here's some examples. We've seen a particular institution find revenue growth by picking the right programs, by investing in those programs to grow. This wasn't online, it was a graduate school. I know we're talking to you all as community colleges today, but these are possibilities for you as well. You may have to tweak them for your space, but it can be done. And so they saw $7 million in revenue growth at this school by really looking at what are the programs that are going to take us forward, what are the programs we need to invest in, and to grow them. At the same time, we have helped the institutions find cost savings, right? So another example, small college, looking at their economics, right? They were able to find ways to identify under-enrolled courses and sections and to reduce faculty course loads. Now, what I just said was reduce faculty course loads, not reduce faculty. That's very important, right? And to reinvest in growth and to sustain those more streamlined programs, right? And so with those types of scenarios that they were able to determine by looking at this data, they were able to save the institution $2.3 million. And those are significant numbers, especially this day and age. So be sure that you're really diving in and taking a look at this. And there is opportunity for you out there. All right, so let's talk about student demand. When we talk about student demand, we talk about three significant areas of student demand. One of those is the Google search, key search terms. And these are the trends for programs that we are seeing US, so across the country, Google search terms. And we are looking at those programs and how did those trends look over this time. So these are 900 programs that we look at, and it's 90% of all US completions. And these 900 programs tend to be, the largest 900 programs, both size and popularity. So Google search terms are an indicator of the future student demand. Okay. And it's what potential students are searching for now as they think about what to major in, and also takes into consideration where they're located. So we can see here when we look at the trends over time, that dark blue bar, I believe, is 2024. And the medium blue color bar is 2023. So we can see that the Google searches have been up, you know, almost each month, with the exception of March, each month over prior year in 2023. So good sign that students are out there, potential students are out there looking for this information. Okay. Sorry, there's my indicators of the colors. Now, in terms of the Google search trends, we see that in May in particular, all right, is up 1% year over year in Google searches for May. And like I said, most all months have been up overall in 2024, with the exception of March. So, but 1% month of May year over year. So we're seeing some good things. All right, in terms of cost per click. Now, cost per click is an indicator of how competitive the program is and how saturated that market is. So typically, the more you're paying for a key search term, the more in demand it is, the more saturated, the more competitive those search terms are. So when we look at this for the month of May 2024, the average cost per click was almost flat year over year. So prices holding steady for these key search terms overall across the US. And then what we can tend to see, in our data is what tends to be very competitive programs. An example of that for community colleges is medical, billing, and coding. Those tend to be very high key search terms. So if you have that program, you may be seeing that. If you are working with a marketing agency, they're probably sharing that information with you as well. And you can always use this kind of data to, see the comparison of what the agency might be doing for you, or, if you're doing this on your own. One that's a little more obscure, but tends to also have high Google key search terms is IT project management. So if that's something you're thinking about, be sure that you're looking at those costs per search terms as a key indicator of competition. All right, so let's look at the Google searches for academic programs. Now, in May, searches for fashion merchandising programs increased 95% year over year. So this list that you see in front of you is May 24th, year over year, fastest growing programs, 95% growth year over year, fashion merchandising, advertising, applied communication, 87%, and then on down the list. And you can see based on our color coding here, which ones align with more personal care, which we have seen a lot of lately in terms of the 10 fastest growing programs in the last year or so. So a lot more of that is coming to the top. Barbering has been on the list for the past few months. And then facialist is fairly new. I assume that is different than obviously esthetician, but there is this category of facial treatment specialist and facialist. So very interesting, new to the list. Esthetician has been on the list pretty consistently, but we're not seeing it here in this point in time. Other newer entries, massage therapist, and then we also have airline flight attendant, fashion merchandising, we've already talked about, PR, dental hygienist, sorry, and plumbing, all appeared last month as well, but not so much in earlier months of this year. Okay, so we're starting to see some changes in what this overall list looks like. Lastly, medical administration. Secretary is a new entrant into this fastest growing program list and keywords as well. So some thoughts to keep your mind on as you're exploring or thinking about your portfolio offerings or new program opportunities. Okay, let's go on down the funnel into enrollment. So this is spring new student enrollment. This comes from our enrollment dashboard that we have, and we get data from National Student Clearinghouse. And if you have any questions on data sources, please do let me know. Happy to share that. So in the spring of 2024, which is good news, the US new enrollment rose 4% for certificates, and 5% for associate degrees. So these are some good indicators and kind of signs of the times right now, which I know in the community college space, it has looked fairly dreary. Obviously, a year pre-COVID and then, COVID and then the recovery year. So we really haven't started seeing that uptick until 2023, both for certificates and new enrollment. Interestingly enough, the certificates are growing even faster than the associate degrees. So this could be, a sign of needing more credentialing or short-term credentials coming out of that certificate space. So some interesting data here. All right, in terms of those certificates, what is the fastest growing within the certificates year over year? So when we look at this spring, auto body collision repair grew 150% year over year. Now, I don't know if that means more people are getting into accidents or just not paying attention on the road since the prior year. But obviously, we need more of these people out there and in the field to help take care of these important areas of, fixing your car and repairing it. It could also be an indication, especially on the repair side, there's still a shortage of new cars out there. And so people are hanging on to their current cars longer and needing to keep them maintained. So I think that is a continued sign of what we have seen in the past as well. We're also seeing on this list a lot of direct to workforce positions. So you'll see most of the top of the list there, 8 of them are career and technical direct to workforce positions. What we didn't see in this top spot in the fall was cybersecurity. So it's really been higher on the list. Now it's down at the bottom and is in 10th place. And you'll notice those last 2 places are what we would call more transfer programs to your 4-year institutions. So those have kind of slipped down, seeing a lot more of the career tech at the top. All right, let's take a look at associate degrees. So in that associate fastest growing, this is the list of programs here. So allied health is our key winner. It grew 39% year over year, spring last year to spring this year at 39%. Although we do have a transfer degree and a health services allied health in that 39% top spot as well. One is a transfer opportunity, one more direct to workforce. And so we also saw radiographer has been in the top 10. And so again, another, health area. But honestly, out of this list, I would expect it to have seen a little bit more health, but we only see 2 slots. And on the associate side, which was the flip of the certificates, we're seeing many more transfer here. So visual performing arts, kinesiology, political science, sociology, history, mathematics. So at the associates level, at least much more transfer. I don't think surprising. I think when people are going for their associate's degree, they may also have that desire and potential, right? They're really looking to move on and gain that bachelor degree as well. So just surprised there's not more health on this one than I expected. Okay. So let's move on to non-degree courses. And, we talk about this a lot in higher ed, especially at the certificate level in the community colleges, and even with, upskilling within associate degrees. And so one of the places that you can look for some indicators, some trends of this is looking at Coursera and Udemy data. And here we're showing the Coursera non-degree demand. And so in May, the Coursera enrollments rose 15% year over year. And there have been, if you can believe it, 133.8 million total learners since Coursera became known. And so I don't know if any of you have spent any time on Coursera. I always know what the top course is. If anybody knows what that course is and can chat to Marianne, the first person that can do that, I will send you a Starbucks gift card for knowing that answer. Okay. So the important thing about Coursera and the trends is it's a good indicator of what people are looking for that non-degree certificate or upskilling. And the thing I love about Coursera is they have like a skills mapping within their information. And so we have that, and you can see based on those courses what skills they're mapping to. And so if you're trying to design a certificate program or some type of non-degree credential, this is a great place to look and see, how can I bring these courses together and what makes sense for a non-degree demand certificate based on what people are interested in. Okay. And so it's really I guess I would say a fascinating way to think about being creative and innovative in our space to pull something together that people have a demand for. Okay. Now, why is May so high? And even look at July last year. Marianne, I'll make this point, then I'll come right to you. This is my anecdotal theory. May and July are times when, first of all, a lot of the graduates are done for their year, and they may be looking to add to over the summer. Okay. In July, it's a lot of time people are taking vacations. And so there may be some upskilling, reskilling, or just wanting to learn something new going on while people are on vacation. There are a lot of people that like to do continuous learning while they're on vacation. So this is my anecdotal theory of why we tend to see high rates in those months. So not that I'm discounting October or any month, but it makes sense in terms of a May, July timeframe. So just a theory, not saying it's empirical data. Marianne, I saw that there might be a question or an answer to my quiz.
We have a couple of answers. Let's see. So the first answer is it Spanish?
I'm sorry, but it is not.
Next is cybersecurity.
Again, it is not the highest course that is taken.
Google Analytics analyst
It is not.
and Microsoft Enterprise. I think we need to give them a little bit of a hint here because it is surprising.
Yes. I will tell you that the hint that's related to this course is in the skill set on this page that's in the middle. So I'll give you a minute to think about that while I talk about the most taught skills. And those actually come in personal growth. And so if no one gets the answer, I will share it with you, but you can see here that there is a high demand through Coursera, at least in May 2024, for areas of personal growth. So we see meditation, gratitude, happiness, savoring. I mean, there could be a lot of definitions for that, but savoring and communication, right? All around personal growth. 5 out of our 10, tech at the top. So I'm not surprised that those individuals said cybersecurity or, something to do with more of the tech area. So as you can see, in terms of most skills taught, data analytics, Python programming, data visualization, right? And then data science and Pomodoro technique at the bottom, which is related to a time management process. But there, people are out there, they are working on their personal growth, right? So this is great. I think that's something we can all learn from, right? Is there ways that we can offer more of these opportunities, or how do we make sure these skills are embedded in the certificates or the degrees that we are offering? Some may seem like, sort of nebulous concepts, but everybody can benefit from gratitude, happiness, meditation for sure. So, Marianne, did we get any winners?
I think we did, and technically we might have more than one, but I'll leave that to you. So,
Okay.
first guess was communication, then we had gratitude, then we had the science of well-being, meditation, mental health wellness, mindfulness, and yoga?
Okay. Well, the winner is, and the answer is the science of well-being is and has been for quite some time the top course taken on Coursera. So if we know who that winner is, Mary Ann, I hope we do. I will be happy to send a Starbucks gift card to that individual. So thank you for looking at that and sharing that, and hopefully you did that without Chat GPT.
Congratulations.
Exactly. All right, so let's move on. Let's look at some employment information. So commonly available sources. All right. And most of us in higher ed tend to look at the NCES data as our source for what are the available jobs that our students can get by program. And that is the National Center for Education Statistics, NCES. So as an example, when we look at mathematics and we only look at the NCES data, it says these are the jobs that are available for your mathematics graduates. They can be data scientists, mathematics science occupations, science teachers at the post-secondary level. They can be mathematicians. They can be natural science managers, secondary school teachers, with the exception of special career tech, and statisticians. That's it. That's all the choices that the graduates have. However, when we look at what we call the crosswalk, not just of direct prep jobs, but of jobs that I guess I would say, for lack of a better term, I'm going to call them generalist jobs or job opportunities other. There are so many more opportunities for someone in mathematics to find a job. And this is very important. Okay, so NCES says there's 2,468. Is that right? Somewhere around there. But when we use the crosswalk we use to identify what alumni are actually out there doing, people are actually out there doing for jobs, 749 occupations across 147 industries. So on the right-hand side, what you see is the highest volume of occupations in the first 4 years after graduation for someone with an associate's in mathematics. Software developers, operations managers, managers of some other type. And this is my favorite, chief executives. Now, most people say that and say, oh my gosh, CEO. Well, they have to have a master's degree for that. No, this is people who are entrepreneurial. They have started their own business. They are the head of their own business or company, small business. Okay, so chief executives. And down the list, you can see this, right? Not really a whole lot of overlap with NCES in terms of the highest volume. So it's really, really important as you think about what are the opportunities for my graduates, that you are not relying just on NCES data, okay? For all you career services, student services, faculty members out there, it's really important that we understand the broad depth of opportunities for these students, okay? This is what we call hope for the humanities, right? And encouraging all of our liberal arts students to know they have an option in these fields for employment. Okay, US job posting trends, 17% year over year, right? May 24, job postings rose. I just heard at a conference yesterday, we have the lowest unemployment that we have had in a very, very, very long time. The discussion, not to get off on a sidetrack, was related to, is this what's causing some of the enrollment decline, right? Typically, we see an enrollment when unemployment is low, everybody working, right? Enrollment drops. And then the opposite happens when people are out of work. They go back to retool, reskill, we see enrollment go up. Right now, we're in a very low unenrollment. And the job postings are up year over year saying, okay, we're looking for these people, right? We need more, we're growing. Our industries are growing. And so what we are looking for is more people who can fill these roles, have these skill sets, right? And that has been steady growth since March. So, right, the last 2 months, we've seen steady growth in this. And so how do we ensure that as we are preparing our students through the programs we offer, that they are aligning with growing jobs? Now, I say this with this, again, caveat. When you are only looking at employer demand, we are missing half of the story. It is so important that when you think about all these jobs that I'm showing on the screen as the fastest growing occupations, that you're also looking at demand. So going back to the Google search, the enrollment, right? Are there students out there that are really interested in what is needed on the employer demand side? Because if those are not matching up, we have that disparity, right? We're not going to fill our seats with students at the college level to fulfill these jobs because the students don't know, don't understand, are not searching for those positions. So when you think about the programs that you are aligning to those jobs, really think about how you're marketing them. What are the key search terms that you need to use? Because that's what the students are using and looking for. Okay, hopefully that's making sense. So make sure you're looking at both sides, demand and employer. So here's the fastest growing occupations: tractor trailer truck drivers, nursing assistants, vocational LPNs, home health, automotive, registered nursing, accountants, on down the list. Here, we almost have some equilibrium between the health programs and the career tech direct to workforce. So a nice balance between those two. Okay. But again, please just make sure you're really thinking about, both sides of that equation when you need to increase your enrollment and look for growth opportunities. All right, skills that are growing in demand across the US. In terms of our listed job postings from the database that we use at Gray, organizational performance grew 219% across the United States year over year. Python, right? A specific language when you are in the computer world and coding. Operational efficiency, electrical systems, scripting, companionship. Interesting enough. That goes back to that science of well-being. So out of this list, 4 business areas, 3 technical areas, and then something we call those core skills, which that companionship and emotional support is part of. And we refer to them as core skills. What they have been referred to, and probably still are to some extent, is these are the soft skills when you're out in the world, right? And sometimes they're referred to as the human skills, but very important skills when you are working with humans, right? Across the spectrum in your industries and in your different environments. So they tend to be a bigger part of lower paying jobs, more your healthcare areas on the lower end, but so important for being successful in those roles. So just a nice balance here across the different skills that are growing. All right, let's travel around the country, shall we? Let's start in California. I don't know if we have any California folks on the call today. If you are, let's hear a little shout out from you. Send a little emoji or a thumbs up. We always like to know if we have California on the call. So what's going on at the community college level in California in terms of Google search trends? In May, searches for ultrasound tech increased 47% year over year. So I don't know what's going on out there in California that we need more ultrasound techs. I'm sorry, I am not privy to that much detail, but this is a growing trend in terms of what people are interested in, ultrasound tech, okay? And there's only one program in these fastest growing programs in California year over year that overlaps with what I showed in terms of the fastest growing programs nationally, and that was barbering. So I'm not for sure if there's a resurgence or a need for barbers or good barbers, but apparently they are high on the list as the fastest growing program, both California and nationally. And then you can see some of the other growing programs in California here. In terms of what we're looking at here, this is the California Certificate and Associates and what the new enrollment trends look like in the spring. So this is 2024 spring. We're looking at certificates from 2019 to 2024, very similar to the national trend, very, well, I hate to say dire, but, did not look great. Pre-COVID, COVID, post-COVID. And then now we are on the upswing and recovering. And I want to just say for these particular slides here, as we look at California and a few other states, this is why, and you'll see some discrepancies here. You just did on the other one where they overlapped. What we want to make sure we do when we look at this data is not just look at national. It's so important to really look at this data at every market level. And I don't know if you joined me and Dr. Kahanoff last month, but we talked about the importance of markets. And because when you look at certain programs, it's appropriate at the national level, but when you look at other programs, you need to get regional. You need to get it down to the state level. You need to get it down to within maybe even the 50-mile or 75-mile radius of your campus. Those market definitions are going to show different results based on your program, based on your market. So it's very key to be thinking about that and taking that into consideration. And you'll see some of that as we move forward here. Okay, associate programs. Spring 2024, fastest growing. Over half of the California fastest growing programs did overlap with the US. Not all, but half. And those are in the dark blue. So you are seeing, or you are following California, if you're on the call, some of the national trends as well. And so you'll see health services, visual performing arts, kinesiology, mathematics, anthropology, political science, English. And again, not surprising at the associate level, a lot of these are, again, transfer programs versus direct to workforce. I do think it's great that we see English on here. I think this is the slide. Maybe I'm ahead of myself. But we do notice that English is perhaps making a resurgence. And so, that's important. We do need that. We need that for communication. And yes, English majors do get jobs. It is true. So, all right, job posting trends. May 2024 again. Job postings rose 34% year over year. So people are hiring. This is a good sign. And it's double the growth that we saw for the US. So California, you have a lot of things going on there. Good, bad, or indifferent, the job postings are up. And that is a good sign for graduates that relate to those fields because they have opportunity. And as we've seen, that can range from those direct to workforce or, transferring to then go on to get that employment opportunity at the bachelor's level. Okay, let's get on the plane and fly over to Ohio, the state just below me. I'm in Michigan. So the Ohio's fastest growing new student enrollment at the associate's level. Diagnostic medical sonography and ultrasound tech. Okay, we heard ultrasound tech before. Something is going on with ultrasound tech that we're seeing this not only out west now and nationally, but also Midwest. Okay, 60% growth year over year. The only overlapping program here is Health Services Allied Health General in terms of what the US trends showed. It is good to see that the registered nursing enrollment is making a comeback because we have seen high volumes but declining enrollments in prior semesters. So it is good to see that making a comeback. All right, Ohio job postings are also ahead of the US overall. Okay, and the Ohio job postings rose 33% year over year. So good job, Buckeyes, if you're on the call. So again, nice amount of job opportunities for graduates. Let's make sure they're skilled up and those students are ready to go for those jobs. Moving on, what do those job posting trends look like? Again, we have another one that doesn't deviate a whole lot from the national trend. But again, we're seeing the tractor trailer truck drivers at the top in terms of the number of units, that growth year over year, right? And so another 2,700 job postings over prior year we're seeing for that particular job that is needed. Software developers, nursing assistants, automotive technicians, again, and mechanics, all in those top 5 slots. All right, Ohio companies. So when we look at companies that are actually posting jobs in Ohio, in May, Deloitte had the highest number. You can see that with 772 total postings just in May. Now, Accenture is another company on this list. Although they only had 417 job postings, they had the highest average salary, and you can see that on the chart to the right there. So their salary is $124,000. Now, Accenture is a global professional services company. They use technology to help businesses, governments, and organizations improve their performance. And this includes a lot of technology related to AI. So with the type of skill set they need and the jobs they're looking for, I'm not surprised it has the highest average salary. And if you will notice, Deloitte is second at 92,700. And as you can see, some of the lower paying jobs, unfortunately, are some of those healthcare, business related, perhaps even education related. So although probably more fulfilling of a role, over time, not seeing as quite as the highest wages as we would with some of those more tech related or tech skilled jobs. All right, so let's hop on the plane again and head up to the East Coast to Rhode Island. Don't know if we have any Ocean State folks on the phone with us today, but if you are here, welcome, and I hope you will find this interesting. In the fall of 2022, more than 6,400 Rhode Island students enrolled in online out-of-state institutions. Okay, so this is after COVID, right? This is even after what I would call the recovery year. This is fall of 2022. And of those 6,400 Rhode Island students, 1,500, almost 1,600 of those students went to Southern New Hampshire University. So what are we trying to say here? When you look at opportunities for online, it is really important that you understand who the competitors really are in your backyard. Now, you've probably heard Grace say this over and over again, but it is worth repeating. When completions are reported to iPads, they are reported to the address of the institution. So that's why when you look at institutions like Southern New Hampshire, Western Governors, University of Phoenix, it looks like they have all this population in those states, when in fact, those students come from all over the country, correct? So one of the things that we've been able to do through NC Sarah data and iPads completions is track those students back to their home address. And so when we provide you competitive data information, we can show you that number of students who have an address, for example, in Rhode Island, but they actually went to school at Southern New Hampshire, or maybe a University of Florida online program, or, a Cal State online program, or maybe another Western Governors. So you can see here, based on online out-of-state enrollment in the fall of 2022, this is where the Rhode Island students went. Southern New Hampshire being number 1, Western Governors 2, Penn Foster College 3, on down the list. And Bristol Community College is in here, right? Which is a Massachusetts community college. So they're not always going to the big players, right? They could be going to an online program across the border. So think about that for your online programs at the community college level. Understand who really is in your backyard taking those students to their programs and why are they doing that? And can then we think about innovative ways to keep our students to our programs online? Right? Is that changing our messaging? Is it changing around how the curriculum is offered? What's in the curriculum, the skill sets, so on and so forth. But this is a really important key point that I want you all to be really thinking about and paying attention to. Okay. All right, Rhode Island job posting trends. Marianne, how are we doing on time? I can't see a clock, so I just want to make sure we're doing okay.
We have about 15 minutes.
Okay, wonderful. We're almost to the end, so hang in there, folks. So Rhode Island job posting trends, 23% year over year for those. And here's the slump that we saw right in December, quite a bit of a slump. Now, we tend to know that job postings slow down, for the holidays. They have come back a little bit in 2023, and then you can see the light blue band in 2024. We had some increases there. January, February went down in March significantly, but we have continued on the upswing. So hopefully we will continue to see that in Rhode Island as, hopefully there is growth there, industry is growing, and they need more people to fill positions. Here is the highest demand programs in Rhode Island in May. It was registered nursing, 528 total job postings. I don't think any of these postings are particularly surprising. We tend to find in many states registered nursing at the top, especially for both associates and bachelor's level. So whether it's LPN, RN, or excuse me, not LPN, but RN and then BSN on top of that. So not a surprise, registered nursing's at the top. We are seeing more need for educators this year with the Rhode Island job postings as well. So that's hopefully a good sign that we're needing some good educators out there, and we need to get them into the space. So the volume of postings have been very nice for registered nursing, some of those health areas, but we're also seeing it in some of the other areas of customer service, administrative assistant, so on and so forth. Okay. So, wow, we have traveled the country today in a matter of, probably 45, 50 minutes. So let's look at a real quick summary, and then we're happy to take questions from any of you. So overall, in terms of looking at the trends in May, Google searches for academic programs rose 1%, mostly fashion merchandising. Nationally, 95% growth. Do you have fashion merchandising in terms of an offering? The demand is there. Spring, new enrollment in certificates rose 54% year over year. Associates rose 5%. So those certificates, people are looking for those, right? Whether it's non-degree, whether it's some sort of credential you could attach to an associate degree, they are needed. And they are needed in auto body collision and repair and allied health. And of course, as we talked about, 8 out of those 10 fastest growing associate programs were actually traditional transfer focused. So I know a lot of emphasis is on workforce development, but let's not forget about our students who are wanting to go on and continue their education. All right, May, US job postings, 17% year over year. Heavy tractor trailer and truck drivers have the biggest increase. And we are continuing to see the business and core skills. Remember, core skills equates to soft skills, grew in demand. Okay, that's where that well-rounded approach comes from in those core skills. And then lastly, again, results can vary by state and by county, right? You need to look at those specific market definitions to really drill in and understand that data so you can have an informed decision on how you approach launching that program or reinvesting or fixing your current portfolio based on what that demand is telling you and that market's telling you. Okay. Again, as an example, job postings in California and Ohio doubled compared to the US in terms of growth. And in Rhode Island, right, that pay attention to that online players in your backyard, right? They had more than half of their online people were going out of state in Rhode Island for that education. So take a look at that data, keep it top of mind, see how you can keep your students in your state and at your institutions. Okay. So I hope you have enjoyed seeing some of these demand trends at the certificate and associates enrollment level for the month of May and year over year. And that's helpful to, as you think about how you are continuing to evaluate your programs, new and current. So with that, Marianne, I'll turn it back to you.
Right. We do have probably time for maybe doing one deeper dive into our program. So I'm going to turn things over to Monica. And our first request was for physical therapy assistant.
Okay, physical therapy assistant. Wonderful. Okay, so what you are all looking at now is an example of our program scorecard that we have in what we call our PES markets system. And what this is doing, it's bringing a lot of data together across 4 key specific areas: student demand, employment, competitive intensity, and degree fit. So there's an easy way to read this and get a sense of how is this program doing? And that is by the color coding. And we put that in there to help what, as our CEO and founder says, our non-data people like him, who is a history major, who want to get to the information quickly and understand it. So one of my colleagues put this best. Think of that top green line as like the title of the book. We're looking at physical therapy at the associates and below level, national market. Each of these sections is like the chapter of the book. So we have student demand, employment, degree fit, and competitive intensity. And each of those has a color. This is how easy it is. The darker the green, the better the opportunity for this program. The darker the green means the more student demand there is, the more employment opportunities. If you are in the green for competition, you have to be careful because we have some metrics that are in the reverse. Okay, but overall, what this is telling us within the blue or the yellow, on average, or maybe a little above average in terms of the competitive intensity. And then we have the degree fit, which is really looking at here on the right-hand column, where do most of those completions and enrollments and educational attainment happen? So for example, this is ripe for the associate's level and mostly the associate's level, although there's those little certificates going on. So this is not a program you would offer the technician or assistant at a doctoral level, right? You want to offer it at the right degree level. So when I look at this program, I'm seeing overall it gets a total score of 40 and it's in the 96th percentile, meaning it's in the top percentiles for offering this program compared to any other program you could be offering or thinking about at the associates and below level. And it's being driven to that level because there is high demand. Okay, we have dark green in those size metrics. We have dark green in the employment. The employment is also driving this, right? Lots of entry job level jobs, not only from our job postings, but also the BLS data. Okay. It has a little lower underemployed percent. Underemployed meaning I get out of school, I have this degree, I'm not working in this field at all. As a matter of fact, I'm working where they don't even require a degree, like, you know, at the checkout counter or your baristas. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying there are people who have degrees who are in those positions, and we are able to show that to you. Okay, so about 20%. And then we give you some wage information there, post-entry if they have an associate's, a bachelor's, so on and so forth. So you get a very good sense of what the wages look like for this position, okay? So obviously, if they go on and they get a bachelor's degree related to this field, you know, on average, they're earning about $61,000. If they go on and get a master's, you know, they've added another 20,000 or so to their earning potential. The thing that you want to think about when you look at this data is the trend growing or is it shrinking? And that's what we give you. We always give you some growth metrics in here to say, yeah, there's lots of demand for this program at the top of the funnel for Google searches. There's lots of students enrolling, and there's a lot of students online and some of the online and on ground. But when I look at the growth, the one thing that's slowing down is the new student enrollment year over year and the completion volumes. Okay, so there's still a lot of demand, but they may be choosing to not move forward and enroll in this program. It's not slowed down, you know, significantly, but it is slowing down. So you have to think about that in terms of the trends, okay? Same on your employment. Watch those trends for job postings. Now in the competitive intensity, real quick, this is where you can see your competitors. This program nationally at the associates and below level has 363 competitors reporting completions to this program. 2 more have come into the space. So now we have 2 more institutions who are reporting graduates to this particular field or particular program. And then we have 9 institutions who are, or how should I put this? We have 9 institutions who have students in this program across the country. Okay. Now, if we were to change our market and look at a particular state, that number might change. It might say, you know, for Rhode Island, there might be 4 institutions that are taking their students from Rhode Island to their programs. Okay. And that's, again, why that market definition is so important. So it is very highly competitive. Okay. And at the bottom, you can see nationally online, there's 14 institutions that are offering this program online. They're making up 3% of the institutions nationally, and they're making up 2% of the online completions. Okay. So there is online competition. There's a lot of on-ground competition nationally. So you have to think about, how am I going to differentiate myself if I have this program against the competition, right? And then you can see, well, how big should I expect this program to get? Right? That's important. So you can look at the average and median completions and see for this program, and I like to look at medium, it takes out your outliers, 15. So, you know, if you want to look at that in terms of enrollment, you at the associate's level, you can multiply that by 2 and use that as a guideline of, you know, if I had a class of 30, that would be a nice size enrollment at maturity, right? These numbers are at maturity. So these are the types of metrics that you can begin to look at and to use to inform your decision about, is this a program we should think about offering? Is this a program that there's still demand, the employment looks good? Let's maybe revamp it, because that opportunity is out there. We might not be seeing that, but the data says we can see that. So, and realize that. So it helps inform those decisions along with all the other things that you need to consider at your institution, like your mission and, you know, your knowledge of the market, so on and so forth. So I hope that was helpful to take a look at this program. And of course, if anybody on the call is ever interested in a sample scorecard about a program, feel free to reach out to us. We're always happy to share that data with you. Marianne, anything else?
I don't see any other questions. I want to thank you all. And as I mentioned in the chat, and as Lisa mentioned, I'm happy to offer a free scorecard to anyone that's on this call. Please reach out to either me or Lisa, or just use our info at grayydi.us. Thank you all for joining.
Have a great day.